I want you to listen to me very carefully here, because in 2020 and 2021, the United States government printed 40% of all of our money in existence right now. In just those 2 years, we had 40% of all of our money that we have in existence, that paper dollars, our cash, 40% of it was printed in 2020 and 2021 with the goal of trying to help poor people, middle class people survive through this pandemic. And what did it do? Well, it gave the poor and the middle class a little bit of a boost, but then it ultimately made rich people richer. Because now we are in a position where the rich and the wealthy are significantly richer now than they were before the pandemic. And at the same time, the poor and the middle class are now poorer than they were before the pandemic. Why? The government printed this money with good intentions, or at least that's what we want to believe. They wanted to help the people, they wanted to help the average person, so they started printing money with the goal of helping regular people, the middle class and the poor, have a chance to survive and maybe even thrive through this pandemic. So what they did was, well, some of this money went out in the form of bailouts, some of this money went out in the form of welfare, and then some of this money went out in the form of stimulus checks. So the government took this money, they printed it, and then they started giving it to people and businesses. Well, then what happened? Well, you have these people, the people that took this money. They got this money because they didn't have any savings. You didn't have much savings, you didn't have investments to fall back on. So now you needed cash because the whole world was slowing down. You didn't have an income, and now you needed to pay your bills. You had to pay your rent, you had to pay your groceries, you had to pay for your electricity, because that way, you needed some money to keep the heat on. So now you take this cash, and then you go to the store. What do? Well, now you take this money, you go to Walmart, or you go to Amazon, and then you go shopping. And then you start buying your groceries. And now what are you left with? Well, you have some groceries, but you have no money. But Amazon and Walmart, well, they sold you the goods. They sold you the groceries. So now what do they have? Well, they sold you a product, and now they have bigger profits. Amazon, the company, brought in record sales during the pandemic because people needed to shop. They don't want to go into the grocery store, so they started shopping online. So who benefited? Amazon and the owners of the company of Amazon, the shareholders, because now they made bigger profits and their stock price skyrocketed. Now at this point, you're probably going to say, but Jaspreet, people needed groceries, they need food, they needed things. What do you want them to do? Not shop, not eat? Well, you smart person, I'm glad you brought that up, because it wasn't just Amazon that benefited, luxury brands benefited too. Gucci saw a massive amount of sales in 2021. In 2021, we were still in lockdown for the first half of 2021. In 2021, we were still in a recession. In 2021, people were still not working. We were seeing record unemployment rates. And yet, we were seeing record-breaking luxury sales at Gucci. Gucci was seeing sales, the same sales they were seeing before the pandemic, in the middle of a pandemic. And it wasn't just Gucci. Louis Vuitton, LVMH, the company that owns Louis Vuitton, saw record-breaking sales of their luxury items in the middle of a recession. We were in one of the worst recessions in the history of time, yet these luxury companies, Louis Vuitton and Gucci, were making record-breaking sales. Louis Vuitton was making money hand over fist. They couldn't even produce enough stuff to sell people because everybody wanted to take their money and go out and buy some Louis Vuitton. They wanted to buy some Gucci. People were willing to wait 2 hours in line. They were willing to spend 2 hours in the freezing cold standing in line to pay $6,000 to buy a purse. Let me diagram what this means, because if you're a visual person like me, it'll make a lot more sense if you see it. So over here, we have the government. And then over here, we have the people, average people. So what happened was, the government worked with the Federal Reserve Bank to start printing money. So they started printing this money right here, and they started giving it to people. And then people became very happy because, hey, I got some free money. I don't gotta pay my rent, I don't gotta pay my mortgage, I got a stimulus check in the mail. The average person felt wealthier because now you had this free money. Now, what happened for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, the average person, they now took this new free money that they were making and they started spending it, even if they didn't need to spend it. Because of course, you had some people that didn't have any money, they couldn't eat, so they needed this cash to go out and buy groceries. But you had a lot of people that were continuing to work, that had money, that now didn't need to spend this money. They didn't need to go out and use this money to buy their groceries. They didn't need to use this money to pay for their electricity bill. So they took this cash and then they started spending it at these companies, these big corporations. And so now what you saw happen was money flowed from the Fed and the government down to people, and then it flowed up right here to the corporations, the big companies. And so here, when the government started printing money, remember, they printed 40% of all dollars in circulation in 2020 and 2021. What that did was it diluted the value of everybody's dollar. Not just the money that they printed, but all the dollars that you had saved in your account here, all the money that you were earning from your job, well, it's not worth as much. If you were making $25,000 before, well, that $25,000 isn't going to buy you as much. If you were making $250,000 before, well, your $250,000 salary isn't going to buy you as much as it did before. I mean, just look at the prices of everything around you. It's going up. Everybody keeps blaming supply chain issues, but if you're financially educated, you know it's not just supply chain issues, it's inflation at work. You're printing more money, you're diluting the value of the dollar, so the value of the dollar goes down. Well, money was printed, it went down here, everybody had some more cash, and then they spent this cash, it goes up to corporations, and now you had all these new dollars that were printed, and now where are these dollars being concentrated now? Well, it went down here, but then a lot of these dollars just flowed back up here. So now we have this imbalance of dollars. We have more dollars being concentrated up here than we do here because money flowed up to the top. Money flowed to the wealthy. And so now you have a bigger concentration of dollars here, and now the people here, well, you may or may not have more savings than before. A lot of people actually have less savings than before now because the cost of everything is so much higher. But let's just assume that you have the same amount of money in the bank now, you're making the same salary as before. Well, you are poorer now than before, even if you have the same bank account, even if you have the same job, because that money that you earned is now being concentrated here. And the dollars that you have saved can't stretch as far. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the shorter clip from the longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And if you're interested in learning more about how to invest your money in the stock market, our team put together an amazing guide that will walk you through how to invest your money in the stock market, what the stock market is, different stock market strategies, and how to build wealth in the stock market. This guide is completely free when you sign up for our daily newsletter. So if you want to read this guide, all you got to do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.